Hey, what's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? What's good? So glad to see everybody. And what we are going to do is talk about how the 2025 freshman class, the double XL class, Cypher is right on par with hip hop and the spirit of hip hop. So let's go ahead and do some history check right quick, man. Double XL magazine has been doing this Cypher thing for a good 10 years, 15 years maybe. I remember the early years with Joe Budden and Nicki Minaj. You had the Kendrick Lamars, you had your J. Cole's, let's see. And then I remember that controversial Cypher with 21 Savage, and I believe it was Yachty. And then the old heads started talking, right? Like hip hop is devolving instead of evolving. And that point is valid, right? Because everybody has their own experience of what hip hop is and what it means to them. And when you think about hip hop and where it came from historically, right? It started off with a turntable and a DJ and an MC and a guy who would just get the party started, okay? A guy that would get the party started, that would say some things that would get the crowd excited, get the party jumping, if you will. So if you think about hip hop in its inception back in the 70s, 1970, 78, 77, 79, okay, disco was going. And the early song for hip hop was Hip Hop, the hippie to the hippie to the hip hop. And you can check out the Sugar Hill Gang and that record, which is a great record. I think it's a great hip hop record. And it's some very simple raps over a very iconic disco track. And that was the baseline for hip hop. Some spoken words over a instrumental or track by the DJ. And back in those days, hip hop, the youthful and the spiritness of hip hop was still youthful, it was still rebellious, and it was anti-establishment. Now, according to historians, hip hop wasn't allowed in the bigger clubs. It wasn't allowed in the quote unquote grown and sexy clubs. Those clubs were exclusive for more polished acts: disco, R&B, funk, bands, musicians. Hip hop, you stay out there in the boroughs. You stay out there in the Bronx, in the projects. You stay in the hood. Over here in Manhattan is where it's at. You got to be more polished. And hip hop stood on that. It's always been youthful. It's always been anti-establishment. So it created its own thing, which was anti-establishment, which was anti-popular. If you think about what hip hop was back then and how it came to be, and what we know and what we've grown to love, people who've grown up with hip hop in the 80s and the 90s, if I was to think about it and be real honest about Brooklyn's Finest by Jay-Z and Notorious B.I.G., it samples a record by the Ohio Players. That record is called Ecstasy. And I can make the argument that the original record is way better than Brooklyn's Finest. And I love Brooklyn's Finest. Brooklyn's Finest is one of the best hip hop records to check. It's on one of the essential hip hop albums in Jay-Z's discography, no doubt. Reasonable Doubt. And all it was an instrumental of Ohio Players' original record, which they had live instruments, live singing, and what Jay-Z and Notorious B.I.G. did was a bastardized version of that song. Let's be honest. If we could be honest about what it is, it was a bastardized version of Ecstasy. And like I said, I like both, but I can make the argument that Ohio Players is better. And many of the records on Reasonable Doubt, they was sampled and used a bunch of samples from the Shalites, and I love this way, this way, this way again. And just to think about what that was for that group, the real group, Hurry Up This Way Again, that song, the Shalites, that record, the instrumentation, the vocals is way better than what Jay-Z did. And those people who made that record back in the 70s and the 80s, they probably heard that Jay-Z's version, like, man, this is nothing. This is nowhere near the excellence of what we really put into our music. This isn't on par with the excellence and the musicianship of what we put into our record. This is a bastardized version or a de-evolution of our record. And if you think about any hip-hop record that used some version of sampling, Kanye West, some of the best sample chops in hip-hop history. He's used some great samples throughout his production history. Devil in a New Dress is one of my favorite songs by Kanye West, which has a great sample. He used the Marvin Gaye, he used Curtis Mayfield. Excellent songs, and you can make the argument that the original songs were superior to what Kanye West put out. I love Marvin Gaye. If you ever get a chance to listen to Marvin Gaye, check out Marvin Gaye's catalog. If you ever get a chance to listen to Curtis Mayfield, check out Curtis Mayfield. Excellent musician, excellent vocalist, excellent. And what Kanye West did and so many other producers. It's a bastardized version of the original. It's not quite as good to some of us. There's nothing better than a Kanye West sample. Those old chops, there's nothing better than a J Dillo chop. There's nothing better than a Primo chop. There's nothing better than Havoc Productions. All of these great producers that have taken classic instruments and instrumentals and taking it and making it something else and making it sound great to us, to you personally, right? And that's what we grew up on. And then for many years, that became the standard. That became the industry. That became what we've known to love. So much so to where now we're at a place to where we can talk about hip hop. We can articulate it. We can grade it. Hip hop has been around long enough, and we've seen enough good hip hop objectively, bad hip hop objectively, to where we can say, well, sonically, the music was good or bad. Flows were good or bad. Instrumentation, good or bad. Did it create? How creative the flows were, delivery. We have all of these different categories and way we can classify art. Damn. We've gotten to a point to where hip hop is grown. We are now in a place where we can go see Young Jeezy perform his classic records in a tuxedo. With the symphony behind him. With the whole orchestra behind him. Nas done it first, and then Jay-Z, and all these records that we've grown up on, that's 25 years old. They're performing in tuxedo and dress shoes. Tuxedos and dress shoes. Grown in a mother... Look. Hip-hop has always been youthful. Has always been rebellious. So the moment that hip-hop is no longer youthful and rebellious, that means that it's something else. And real hip-hop will come along. Because Wu-Tang is for the kids. Damn. Wu-Tang has always been for the kids. Shout out to 36 Chambers. Shout out to the Jizza and the RZA. What we've known to love about hip-hop and grown to love about hip-hop, and even me, I was wondering where hip-hop was going. One day I was thinking about that era in 2010, the 2010s. I was thinking about that era, 2010, 11, 12, 13. You had Drake, you had Kanye, you had J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. And I was thinking to myself, damn, hip-hop was in a place where they were talking about college rappers and college stuff, and you know, you had Kanye with the College Dropout series, and then J. Cole was talking about being at NYU and being a broke college student. And then you had a few rappers here and there that was making some references to being in college. And I was thinking, like, damn, where in the hell is hip hop going after this, right? I wanted to know. Fast forward to this day, and I'm like, well, damn, what happened? Why didn't we get more of college raps, smart rappers? And it hit me watching this right here and listening to the reviews of the 2025 XXL Freshman Cypher. Hip hop has never been about bars and being the smartest rapper in the room and being the most lyrical miracle. It's never been that. Is that an element of it? Yes, but it's never been that. Being youthful trumps being smart. Being anti-establishment trumps what you say. It ain't what you say, it's how you say it. It ain't what you say, it's how you say it. It's always the delivery. Hip hop will always be youthful. Hip hop will always be anti-establishment. And every time this freshman cypher classes come by every year, the expectation shouldn't be, man, we're gonna get some great bars from these guys. And it hates. I know it will hurt you to hear that. It will hurt you hip hop purists to hear that it's not about the bars. It's not. It's not. They're speaking to the rebels. They're speaking to the anti-establishment. When they're speaking to the folks who don't get played in the club. They don't get played in the popular night spots. They're speaking to the folks who don't listen to Kendrick Lamar, the people who don't listen to J. Cole, the people who don't listen to Griselda. And I love Griselda. I think Griselda's some of the best hip hop over the last 10 years, man. They've been, damn. And that's what I consider to be underground. But hell, Benny the Butcher got a major record deal, and we got to think about that. Like, we got to really, really think about what hip hop is. Like, as gritty and grimy and grungy and as violent as we think, rappers like Benny the Butcher is, and Conway the Machine, and West Side Gun, and Freddie Gibbs, they are still major recording artists, just like those artists back in the 70s and the 80s. Shy Lights, Ohio Players, the Marvin Gaye's, your Curtis Mayfields. And rappers took those instruments and those melodies and those tracks and artists, they got inspired from that, and then they made that sound and made it their own. And it's not that. It's not that. We're taking it and we're turning it into something else. Anti-establishment, youthful, rebellious. Shout out to Jello. Now, as we move forward in this thing, one day these rappers, 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, one day they will be established and major, and they will be the establishment in tuxedos and grown up. And the people who they inspired, shut up Siri, and the people who they inspired will look at them and be inspired by them and be anti them. Anti 2025, or an evolution of 2025. 2000, can you imagine 2000? XXL 2050 Cypher. Hell, that don't even sound right, but it's possible. 2050 freshman class. 2050, that's 25 years from now. And I'm going to be around to hear it. I'm going to be around to see it. And we're going to speak on it. And I'm going to revisit it. And I'm going to double down on this thought. Like, hey, this is hip hop. And the funny thing is whenever you think you've got hip hop figured out, you got to know that bars, and hip hop is all about the bars, and hip hop is all about the battle, and hip hop is all about, no, it's not. You can't put hip hop in a box. The only box that you should put hip hop in is that it's for the kids. It's youthful. Back in the 90s, hip hop artists really did age out of hip hop. And I think that played a part. When you think about how Big Daddy Kane and Rakim and KRS-One and how artists like that really kind of fade out, even though they really had some gas in the tank, because you listen to some KRS-One records around by that time, and KRS-One was still making really good music. Channel Live, I really do love Channel Live, and some of those raps that he was rapping over with those beats, I was like, man, he's amazing. Return of the Boom Bap, one of my favorite rap albums of all time. So in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, those artists weren't allowed to grow with hip hop, and you can see where hip hop moved on quickly from those artists, and maybe that was part of what kept lyricism alive, if you will. We're gonna have to really unpack that thought, man. Those guys turned 30 and they wasn't able to grow like artists are today. Like you have rappers today that's 50 years old and they're making great music. Objectively. The Clips just released the album and they are approaching 50. They're in their late 40s, and some are considering the latest album to be a masterpiece, a modern day classic. Late 40s. That's at least 10 years, 15, shit. That's at least 20 years past the expiration date of a rapper in the 90s. Your KRS-Ones, your Big Daddy Kanes. Nas released a slew of albums while he was in his 40s. Jay-Z released albums while he was in his 40s. Definitely J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, even Drake, they're in their 30s and they're releasing a lot of music, while those rappers in the 90s, once they reach a certain age in their 30s, they were no longer able and got support from the music industry. And maybe they failed to evolve themselves. They didn't invest back into themselves to where they could sustain a career without the establishment. Come on. The business of hip-hop has changed throughout the years too. Rappers have become more independent. The independent artists, they're able to invest back into them. Record label signings and deals have become lucrative. Peep out the Master P 80-20 split that really changed the game for artists. Shout out to the South. Shout out to the South. Shout out to Master P for showing you New York cats how to get this money, man. That run with No Limit laid the foundation on how rap business could be done to be lucrative rap business. I ain't gonna dive on that too much. I'm gonna go back to that one. So the business of hip-hop changed. Rappers make more money. Money is invested in them. They can sustain a rap career past 30. It doubles down and triple down of what they do, what we like, and what we deem as good hip-hop. But hip-hop is always youthful, right? And it's just a matter of time before youthful rebellion shows its face. It's just a matter of time. Money doesn't make the man. Money is a tool. But if we were to really think about it, you're just looking at the image on the screen. I bet there ain't a net worth of $20,000 in that room. Maybe a good 10,000, okay? Maybe. It's energetic. It's youthful. It's anti. It's hip hop. Wu-Tang will always be for the kids. No money. Not Picasso paintings. Not Basquiat paintings. Not the lyrical miracles and college whiz kids and raps that's unrelatable. Shout out to Drake. So if bars were the standard, if bars is the industry, Kendrick Lamar winning Grammys, whatever that's we're putting on a pedestal as being this and that and great. Okay, well, we're going to be anti that. We don't want to be bars. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be slapping beats. We don't want to be that. We're as a matter of fact, we're going to make it our business to be anti that. Because hip hop will always be youthful, rebellious. And this is on par. The 2025 XXL Freshman Cypher is on par with what hip hop is and what it will always be for the kids. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this thing on out, man. I think I've done my best to represent this well, and hopefully I made my point. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the next video, man. Shout out to XXL Freshman class. Y'all doing y'all thing. Keep it up. We love the youthful rebellion. I love it. Next time.